They say knowledge is power, but some knowledge destroys you from the inside. I'm a delivery driver. Was a delivery driver. My wife needed surgery, and our van was breaking down. When a catering company offered me 3 times my usual rate for one night's work, I didn't ask questions. I should have. The dispatcher said it was urgent. The client was anonymous. The pickup location was a sterile facility with no signs. Workers in black aprons and mirrored sunglasses loaded unmarked containers into my van. They're already hungry, one of them said. The dispatcher's voice was too calm when she said 3 times my usual rate for one night. Sarah from Metro Catering had called me at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was watching the bills pile up on our kitchen table. Medical debt from my wife's surgery. The transmission on our van making grinding noises every morning. Credit card statements I couldn't open anymore. When Sarah said $1,200 for 6 hours of work, I stopped thinking about anything else. It's a special client, she said. Very private, very particular about their vendors. I've been driving for Metro for 3 years. Usually hauled wedding cakes and office lunches across the city for $400 a week if I was lucky. This was different money, life-changing money, the kind that could buy us another month of normal. What kind of catering? I asked. Sarah paused. High-end protein delivery, temperature sensitive. The client provides everything. You just transport. She wouldn't tell me who the client was. Said they preferred to stay anonymous. Rich people thing, she explained. Celebrities and politicians liked their privacy. Made sense to me. I delivered to mansions before where security guards took the food at the gate. Never saw faces, never asked names. Just dropped off and got paid. Pickup is at midnight, Sarah continued. You'll need to sign some paperwork first. Standard confidentiality agreement. The red flag started when she couldn't tell me what I'd be carrying. Specialty items, she said. Pre-packaged, temperature controlled. Nothing you need to worry about. When I asked about the destination, she got vague. Private residence. GPS coordinates will be provided. Her answers felt rehearsed, like she'd given this same speech before. But $1,200 silenced every question I had. My wife needed her follow-up appointment next week. The van needed repairs. Our rent was due in 5 days. I told myself rich people were just weird about their food. Maybe it was exotic meat, Wagyu beef or imported fish, things I'd never afford. Sarah said I needed to come in 30 minutes early to handle the paperwork. Just formalities, she assured me. Insurance stuff. You understand. I understood that $1,200 would solve 3 different problems keeping me awake at night. Everything else was just details. The Metro catering office felt different at 11:30 p.m. Empty. Too quiet. Sarah met me at the door with a clipboard and manila envelope. The papers were thicker than normal delivery contracts, more pages, smaller print. I skimmed through standard liability clauses until I hit the weird language. Biological inventory transport. Organic protein handling protocols. Temperature maintenance for perishable biological materials. The words felt clinical, medical, not like food at all. What kind of food needs biological handling? I asked. Sarah shrugged. High-end stuff. Specialty preparations. The client is very specific about freshness. She pointed to signature lines. Initial here, sign there, standard stuff. But it wasn't standard. One clause talked about discretion regarding cargo contents. Another mentioned penalties for premature inspection of sealed containers. The final page had a section about maintaining optimal transport conditions for organic protein preservation. I told myself it was just legal language. Lawyers making simple things complicated. Rich people covering themselves with fancy words. The penalty clause bothered me though. $5,000 for unauthorized inspection of the cargo. More money than I'd make in 2 months. Why would they care if I looked inside food containers? Sarah tapped her pen on the desk. Clock's ticking. Pickup location closes at 1 a.m. She wasn't smiling anymore. My hand shook as I signed each page. The ink felt permanent, binding, like I was agreeing to something I didn't understand. Sarah collected the papers immediately, slid them into the envelope. Pickup address is Valley Prime, Bay 6, Industrial District. They'll be expecting you at midnight exactly. She handed me a phone. Use this for any communication. Your personal phone stays in the van. Another strange requirement. But I was committed now. Signatures in ink. Promises made. One more thing, Sarah said as I reached the door. They're very particular about punctuality and discretion. Do exactly what they tell you, nothing more, nothing less. Her voice carried weight, warning, like she knew something I didn't. This client pays well because drivers follow instructions perfectly. I nodded, understood. Rich people liked things done their way. I could follow instructions for $1,200. Walking to my van, I felt the weight of what I'd agreed to. Biological inventory, organic protein, temperature-controlled mystery cargo. Every rational part of my mind screamed that normal catering companies didn't use language like that. But desperate people make desperate choices, and I was desperate. The bills on our kitchen table had made the decision for me. I started the engine and drove toward Valley Prime, telling myself it was just one night, just one delivery, just rich people being strange about their fancy food. Valley Prime Bay 6 had no signs, no company name, just numbers painted on a steel door. The building stretched long and white under security lights. Chain-link fence surrounded the whole property. Cameras mounted on every corner tracked my van as I pulled up to the loading dock. The smell hit me first when I stepped out. Bleach mixed with cold metal, like a hospital mixed with a butcher shop. Nothing moved in the fluorescent glare except moths circling the lights above. 2 men waited by the loading bay. Black rubber aprons covered them from chest to knee. Thick rubber gloves reached their elbows. Mirrored sunglasses hid their eyes even though it was past midnight. Neither one introduced himself. Neither one spoke. They just watched me park and walk to the back of my van without a word. Their footsteps echoed off the concrete in the silence. I followed them, asked if they needed help. One of them shook his head, pointed to a spot near the wall where I should stand. The containers came out on a metal cart. 5 stainless steel coolers with no wheels and no handles. Each one took both men to lift. They moved carefully, deliberately, like they were carrying something that could break, or something that could spill. The metal scraped against the van floor as they slid each container into place. No labels on any of them, no company stickers, no refrigeration units humming, just smooth steel surfaces reflecting the loading dock lights. I heard something shift inside the first container as they positioned it. A soft sliding sound, like liquid moving, or something heavy settling against the walls. I told myself it was ice melting, frozen meat thawing. Rich people probably ordered their steaks still frozen, had them delivered cold to keep them fresh. But the sound came again from the second container, then the third. Always when they tilted them to slide them in. Always that soft, wet sliding noise, The workers whispered to each other in a language I didn't recognize. Quick, sharp words that sounded like warnings. One of them checked his watch twice. The other one kept glancing at the facility door like he expected someone to come out. Their nervousness made me nervous. I'd done hundreds of pickups. Never seen workers act so jumpy about loading food. They handled everything like it might explode if they moved too fast. The fluorescent lights above us buzzed and flickered, made everything look sick and pale. The concrete floor was spotless except for wet marks where the cartwheels had rolled. The whole place smelled antiseptic, clinical, like they scrubbed it down with hospital-grade cleaners between every use. No kitchen smells anywhere, no spices or oils or bread baking. Just that sharp bleach scent cutting through the metallic air. One of the workers dropped his voice when they loaded the fourth container, said something that made his partner laugh. Not a happy laugh, a nervous one, like someone telling a joke that wasn't really funny. They both looked at me then, those mirrored glasses reflecting my face back at me. I couldn't see their eyes, but I felt them watching, studying, like they were deciding something about me. The final container was heavier than the others. Took them 3 tries to get it positioned right. It made a different sound when they slid it in. Deeper, wetter, like something thick sloshing around inside. The worker closest to me wiped sweat from his forehead even though the night air was cold. He glanced at his partner, then at me. His mouth moved like he wanted to say something. "Temperature's critical," he finally said. His voice was rough, unused. "Client's very particular about temperature." His partner nodded, checked his watch again. "Time sensitive too. They don't like to wait." The way he said "they" made it sound like more than just hunger, like impatience, like anger if things went wrong. I signed the receipt on their clipboard. The paper was damp from the humidity. My signature looked shaky under the security lights. One of the workers took the clipboard back, tore off my copy, handed it to me without looking at my face. "Straight there," he said. "No stops. No delays." His partner was already wheeling the empty cart back toward the facility, walking fast like he wanted to get inside. "They're already hungry," the first worker said as I climbed into my van. He said it casual, like commenting on the weather, but something in his tone made my skin crawl. I started the engine, put it in drive, pulled away from the loading dock with 5 unmarked containers sliding slightly in the back. The facility lights disappeared in my mirrors. The industrial district gave way to empty roads. I tried to focus on the GPS screen, on the $1,200 waiting at the end of this delivery. But that soft sliding sound kept coming from behind me every time I turned a corner, and I couldn't stop hearing that worker's voice. "They're already hungry," like he knew exactly what was waiting for me at the destination. 20 minutes into the drive, I heard the first shift. Something heavy sliding inside the containers. I gripped the steering wheel tighter and focused on the GPS screen. $1,200. That's what mattered, not whatever was moving around in my cargo area. The route took me through empty industrial streets toward the highway. No traffic at this hour, just me and whatever was sliding around behind me every time I took a turn. The sound got worse as I merged onto the freeway, not just sliding now, settling, like something wet finding its level in those steel boxes. I cranked up the radio to drown it out, but the bass made it vibrate through the van floor, through my seat. I could feel it in my bones. Each container seemed to respond to the music, shifting, moving, like they were breathing in rhythm with the beat. That's when the smell started. Metallic but sweet, like copper pennies mixed with orange juice. It crept through the cab, despite the sealed containers. Got stronger with each mile. I rolled down the windows, but it didn't help. The smell clung to everything. My clothes, my hair, the inside of my nose, made my mouth taste like I'd been sucking on batteries. I told myself it was just meat settling, frozen steaks thawing, ice melting and refreezing. Rich people probably ordered their beef aged in special ways, dry aged for months. That would smell different, stronger, more metallic. The sliding sounds were just chunks of ice breaking apart, pieces of meat separating as they warmed up. Normal delivery stuff. Nothing to worry about. The phone rang at the 40-minute mark. Not my personal phone. The one Sarah had given me. Unknown number on the screen. I almost didn't answer, but the ringing wouldn't stop. Echoed through the van like an alarm. "Hello," I said. The voice that answered was calm. Too calm. Like someone reading from a script. "Temperature check," the voice said. "How's your cargo holding up?" It wasn't Sarah. Wasn't anyone from Metro Catering. Just a cold professional tone that made my skin crawl. "Fine," I said. "Everything's fine. Temperature's holding steady." But I didn't know that. Had no way to check. The containers had no gauges, no readouts, no way to monitor anything. "Good," the voice said. "Stay en route. No stops, no deviations." The line went dead before I could ask who was calling. I stared at the phone in my hand. How did they know I was driving? How did they get this number? Sarah had said the client was particular about their deliveries, but this felt like surveillance, like someone was watching me through cameras I couldn't see. The GPS led me off the highway into mountain roads, winding curves that made the containers shift harder, made that wet sliding sound louder, more frequent. I could hear liquid sloshing now. Definitely liquid. Not ice, not solid frozen meat. Something that moved like water but thicker, heavier. The smell got stronger too. Sweet metal mixed with something organic. Something that might have been alive once. My hands started shaking on the steering wheel. Every rational part of my mind said to pull over. Open the containers. See what I was carrying. But that penalty clause in the contract kept echoing in my head. $5,000 for unauthorized inspection. More money than I had. More than I could ever pay back. And that calm voice on the phone telling me to stay en route. No deviations. The mountain road got darker as I climbed higher. No streetlights, no houses. Just trees pressing close to the asphalt and my headlights cutting through the blackness. The GPS kept recalculating, taking me down side roads that didn't look like they led anywhere, the kind of roads that ended at hunting cabins or abandoned mines, places where people went to disappear. Behind me, the containers had found a rhythm, a slow shifting pattern that matched the curves, like whatever was inside had learned to anticipate the turns, moved with them instead of against them. That scared me more than the random sliding, made it seem alive, aware, waiting for something. I whispered to myself that it was just meat. Had to be. Rich people ate expensive cuts, Wagyu beef, Kobe steaks, things that cost more per pound than I made in a day. The processing probably made them smell different, look different, move different when they thawed. This was just money, rich people food, nothing more. But the road kept climbing into emptier territory. The GPS showed miles of nothing ahead. No towns, no gas stations, no places where normal people lived. Just a destination marker getting closer with every turn. And behind me, those containers kept their steady rhythm, sliding and settling like something patient. Something that knew exactly where we were going. The GPS led me through gates that opened by themselves to a house that looked like it was built to hide things. Black iron bars swung apart without any guards or intercoms. Just sensors somewhere in the darkness recognizing my van. The driveway curved through manicured trees toward a structure that didn't look like a home, more like a museum. All concrete angles and glass walls. No warm lights in windows. No curtains or signs of normal life. Just a faint golden glow spilling from sconces by the front door. Luxury cars filled the circular turnaround. A white Rolls-Royce, 2 black Mercedes, a Tesla with tinted windows so dark I couldn't see inside, license plates from different states, California, New York, one I didn't recognize at all, the kind of cars you see in celebrity magazines, the kind that cost more than most people's houses. I parked between a Porsche and something Italian I couldn't pronounce. A man in a black suit appeared from the shadows near the entrance. No earpiece, no visible weapon, just expensive fabric and polished shoes clicking on stone. He gestured toward the service entrance without speaking. Led me around the side of the house past windows that showed nothing but darkness inside. The containers made that sliding sound again as we walked. He paused, listened, then kept moving like nothing had happened. The service door opened into a kitchen that looked more like a laboratory. White tile walls, stainless steel everything. Fluorescent lights bright enough to perform surgery. A woman in a charcoal uniform and latex gloves directed me toward a freight elevator. Her smile was too wide, too practiced, like she'd greeted dozens of delivery drivers in the middle of the night. "Just to the storage level," she said. "Someone will meet you there." I caught glimpses of the main house as we passed through hallways. Expensive art on walls, sculptures that probably cost more than my van. Cameras in every corner pointed at angles that covered everything. No blind spots anywhere. Doors with electronic locks instead of handles. The kind of security you see in banks or prisons. Everything designed to control who went where. The elevator descended past what should have been the ground floor, past what might have been a basement, kept going down into levels that didn't exist on any building plans. The woman's smile never changed. Her eyes never blinked. She hummed something under her breath that sounded like a lullaby or a funeral song. I couldn't tell which. The storage level stretched longer than the house above. Concrete floors, industrial lighting, more cameras tracking our movement down the hall. The containers made wet sounds every few steps, like whatever was inside had learned to anticipate the turns. The woman in latex gloves pointed to a door marked with symbols instead of words. "Through there," she said. "They're waiting." That's when I saw them, standing in the hallway near another door. 2 people I'd seen on television 1,000 times. Faces everyone in America would recognize. Oprah Winfrey and Diddy. Dressed for a gala. Elegant, effortless, but wrong somehow in this underground hallway, like finding movie stars in a morgue. Their conversation stopped when they saw me. Both turned. Both smiled. Neither looked surprised. "Fresh delivery," Oprah said to her companion. Her voice carried the same warmth I'd heard on TV, but it felt different here. Calculated, like an actor hitting their mark. Diddy nodded, checked an expensive watch. "Right on time," he said. "They're getting hungry upstairs." The way he said hungry made my skin crawl. Not casual, not normal hunger. Something deeper, something that had been waiting. More faces appeared from other doorways. A senator I'd seen on the news. A tech billionaire whose name was on half the apps on my phone. A Hollywood producer who'd won Oscars. All of them dressed like they were attending a charity gala. All of them moving too quietly through hallways that smelled like antiseptic and cold metal. all of them looking at me like I was expected, like I was part of whatever was happening here. The woman in latex gloves led me deeper into the storage area, past rooms with locked doors, past hallways that disappeared into darkness. The containers grew heavier with each step, or maybe my arms were getting tired from carrying secrets I didn't understand. She stopped at a metal door with a biometric scanner, pressed her thumb to the glass. The lock clicked open with a vacuum hiss. "Just inside," she said. "Set them anywhere. Someone will handle the unpacking." Cold air rushed out when the door opened. Freezer air, the kind that burns your lungs and makes your breath visible. I stepped inside carrying the first container, saw hooks hanging from steel bars, packages wrapped in plastic, labels with words I didn't want to read. That's when I realized I wasn't delivering food to rich people. I was feeding something much worse. And there was no way back up those stairs that didn't make me part of whatever happened in rooms like this. The storage room looked normal until I opened the industrial freezer and saw the labels. Steel shelves lined the walls. Commercial-grade equipment humming in the background. Everything you'd expect in a high-end catering facility. I set the first container on a metal table and wiped sweat from my hands. The woman in latex gloves had disappeared back upstairs, left me alone with instructions to unload everything and wait for someone to check my work. Standard delivery protocol, nothing unusual yet. The freezer door had a heavy handle that required both hands to turn. Cold air poured out sharp and dry, bit through my jacket immediately. My breath turned visible in the sudden temperature drop. Inside looked like any commercial meat locker, hooks hanging from steel rails, packages wrapped in butcher paper, labels with dates and weights. Professional organization, the kind you see in restaurants that serve $100 steaks. I started reading the labels while I waited for my eyes to adjust to the dim freezer light. Expected to see Wagyu beef, prime cuts, exotic game meat that rich people paid thousands for. But the first package I picked up said something different. Something that made my hands go cold despite the latex gloves I'd put on. Juvenile prime. 23 pounds fresh. Use by March 15th. Juvenile what? Prime what? The next package was heavier, wrapped in the same white butcher paper, but stained with something dark around the edges. The label was more specific, more detailed. Age shoulder, female, 28 years, dry aged 14 days, 31 pounds. I told myself it was code language. Rich people probably use fancy terms for their meat. Aged shoulder could mean anything, could be from some exotic animal I'd never heard of. But then I saw the barcode, the systematic numbering, the way each package was categorized and weighed with scientific precision. This wasn't random, wasn't casual. Someone had organized this inventory with the same care you'd see in a medical facility or a morgue. Each label included harvest dates, processing times, storage temperatures, details that suggested industrial scale operation. My hands shook as I moved deeper into the freezer. More packages lined the shelves, dozens of them, all labeled with the same clinical precision. Prime thigh, male, 34 years, 18 pounds. Ribeye section, female, 41 years, 12 pounds tenderloin, male, 19 years, 4 pounds. The ages made it impossible to deny what I was reading, what I was looking at, what I'd been transporting in my van. That's when I saw it hanging from one of the steel hooks, not wrapped, not packaged, just hanging there like meat in a butcher shop. A human leg, pale skin, shaved clean, removed at the hip with surgical precision. The foot still had toenails, still had a small scar on the ankle that looked like someone had fallen off a bike as a kid. Someone real. someone who used to walk and run and dance. I stumbled backward into the metal shelving. Packages fell to the floor around me, labels scattered. The industrial lighting overhead buzzed and flickered, made everything look sick and wrong. My vision blurred, my stomach turned inside out. I'd been hauling human meat across the state, loading body parts into my van like sides of beef, delivering dinner to cannibals who dressed like celebrities and lived in mansions. The containers I'd brought were still sitting on the table outside the freezer, still making those wet, sliding sounds. But now I knew what was moving around inside them, whose flesh was settling against the steel walls, whose blood was pooling at the bottom. I opened the first container with shaking hands, saw pieces wrapped in plastic, saw labels with fresh dates, saw what I'd been carrying for $1,200. I grabbed one of the smaller packages from the freezer, shoved it inside my jacket, evidence, proof of what I'd seen, what I'd participated in. My hands moved without thinking, autopilot, survival mode. I had to get out, had to tell someone, had to make this right somehow. The package felt cold against my chest, heavy, like it was trying to drag me down into the same darkness that had consumed everyone else in this house. But footsteps echoed in the hallway outside, high heels clicking on concrete, getting closer. Someone was coming to check on my progress, to see if I'd finished unloading their dinner. I closed the freezer door, backed away from the evidence, tried to look normal, professional, like a delivery driver who hadn't just discovered that he'd been feeding monsters. The door opened and she walked in. The face I'd seen on magazine covers and red carpets for 20 years, smiling like we were meeting at a charity event instead of standing in a room full of human remains. She found me in the storage room, and her voice was calm as death when she said, "Curiosity is the first doorway to elevation." I spun around with the stolen package still pressed against my chest. She stood in the doorway like she'd been watching me for hours. No surprise on her face, no anger, just that same red carpet smile I'd seen in magazines 1,000 times. But her eyes were different here, cold, ancient, like she'd been doing this longer than I'd been alive. "You looked," she said, stepped into the room and closed the door behind her. The lock clicked with electronic finality. Most drivers don't. They follow instructions, drop off and leave. But you got curious. She moved closer with perfect posture. Designer dress, $1 million jewelry, looking like she was hosting a charity gala instead of standing in a room full of human remains. That's normal. Curiosity is the first doorway to elevation. I backed against the metal shelving. Packages shifted behind me. "This is insane," I said. "You're eating people." My voice cracked like I was 12 years old again. She laughed, not cruel, almost fond, like a teacher explaining something obvious to a slow student. "Eating implies hunger," she said. "This is about alignment, about understanding your place in the natural order." She gestured toward the freezer with manicured fingers. "Look around you. Really look. This isn't madness. It's evolution. The strong consuming the weak to become stronger. Lions don't apologize for eating gazelles. Hawks don't feel guilty about taking mice. We're just honest about what we are." Her voice carried the same warmth I'd heard on television, but here it felt calculated, rehearsed, like she'd given this speech before. "The difference between us and animals is choice," she continued. "We choose who deserves to ascend and who exists to serve that ascension. The homeless, the addicts, the ones society already discarded. We give their lives meaning through our consumption. She spoke like she was discussing stock portfolios, clinical, detached, more terrifying than any screaming threat could have been. I pressed harder against the shelving. The stolen package felt like ice against my ribs. "You're sick," I whispered. She shook her head, smiled wider. "I'm enlightened. We all are. Politicians, tech moguls, entertainment industry leaders. We understand what regular people refuse to accept. That hierarchy isn't artificial. It's biological. Natural selection in action." "You deliver food for minimum wage," she said. "Live paycheck to paycheck. Worry about medical bills and car repairs. That's the existence of prey animals. Always running. Always afraid. Always hungry." She stepped closer. I could smell her perfume. Expensive. Floral. Nothing like the metallic sweetness that clung to everything else down here. "But you took something tonight. That's the first step." Her eyes focused on the package bulging under my jacket. "You felt it, the temptation, the curiosity about forbidden knowledge, about power that comes from crossing lines others won't cross." She held out her hand, palm up, like she was offering communion. "You can keep running, go back to your van, your bills, your ordinary life. Or you can stay, learn, elevate yourself above everything that's been holding you back." "We consume what serves us," she explained. "Flesh, energy, influence. Each meal makes us stronger, more connected, more powerful. The nutrients feed the body, but the act feeds something deeper. Your soul, your ambition, your willingness to take what you need instead of begging for scraps." Her philosophy sounded practiced, systematic, like a religion with rules and rituals and true believers. "Join us and you'll never be hungry again. Not for food, not for money, not for respect. The weak exist to serve the strong. It's not cruel, it's natural law." She paused, let her words sink in. "Or keep delivering other people's meals, keep counting pennies, keep worrying about tomorrow while we shape the world from positions you'll never reach." I thought about my wife's medical bills, about our broken van, about the credit card statements I couldn't open anymore, about working 3 jobs and still falling behind, about being invisible to people like her, about delivering their food while my own family ate ramen noodles for dinner. The package under my jacket felt heavier, warmer, like it was calling to something dark inside me. But I looked at her perfect smile, her designer clothes, her casual discussion of systematic murder, and I knew that $1,200 wasn't worth becoming whatever she was. I shook my head, pushed past her toward the door. "You're monsters," I said. She didn't try to stop me, didn't call for security, just watched me fumble with the electronic lock. "You took," she called after me. "That's the first step, whether you admit it or not." The elevator carried me back toward the surface, toward my van, toward escape. But her words followed me up through the floors, and the package pressed against my chest felt like a promise I'd already made. I ran home thinking I'd escaped, but the package I'd stolen was already on our kitchen counter. My wife Lisa stood at the stove with her back to me. Steam rose from a pan where something sizzled in oil. The smell hit me first. Rich, metallic, familiar. The same smell that had filled my van during the drive. The same smell that clung to everything in that underground freezer. "You're late," she said without turning around. "I found this in your jacket pocket. Looks expensive. Where'd you get fancy meat like this?" She held up the empty butcher paper. Clean white wrapping with that clinical label still attached. The words I'd tried not to read earlier. The words that proved what I'd seen wasn't a nightmare. Lisa had unwrapped it, prepared it, cooked it like any other dinner. I dropped my keys on the counter, tried to keep my voice steady. Don't eat that. Something's wrong with it. It might be spoiled. But she was already cutting pieces on a plate. The meat looked normal under kitchen lights. Pink in the center, seared brown on the outside. Like a restaurant steak. Like something you'd order for a special occasion. Nothing that would make you think twice. Smells fine to me, Lisa said. Better than fine, actually. Smells incredible. Like the most expensive cut I've ever seen. Did you get a bonus today? She smiled. First real smile I'd seen from her in weeks. The medical bills had been wearing on both of us, making every meal feel like a luxury we couldn't afford. This looked like luxury. Felt like a gift from a husband who finally brought home something good. My stomach turned as she put the first bite in her mouth, chewed slowly. Her eyes closed with satisfaction. This is amazing. What kind of meat is this? Tastes like nothing I've ever had before. So tender, so rich. She cut another piece, savored it like wine, like something worth celebrating. I watched her eat what I'd stolen from that freezer, what I'd taken as evidence, what I now realized was exactly what that celebrity had predicted I would do. You took, her voice echoed in my head. That's the first step, whether you admit it or not. I told myself I was gathering proof, evidence to expose their operation. But standing in my kitchen, watching my wife enjoy her meal, I understood the truth. I'd stolen it because some part of me was curious. Some part of me wanted to know what they knew, what they tasted, what made them feel so superior. Lisa finished her plate and looked at me expectantly. Aren't you going to eat? You must be hungry after working so late. She'd prepared enough for both of us. 2 plates. 2 portions of what used to be someone's child, someone's sibling, someone who'd walked and talked and dreamed before ending up wrapped in butcher paper in my jacket pocket. I sat at our small kitchen table, picked up the fork, looked at the meat she'd prepared with such care, the same meat hanging on hooks in that underground freezer, the same meat those celebrities discussed like fine wine. The same meat I transported across the state for $1,200. My hand shook as I brought the first bite to my mouth. It tasted better than anything I'd ever eaten. Rich, complex, satisfying in ways that regular meat never was. I understood immediately why they called it elevation, why they spoke about it with religious reverence, why that celebrity had smiled when she talked about consumption. This wasn't just food. It was transformation. Each bite made me feel stronger, more aware, more connected to something larger than my ordinary life. Lisa watched me eat with satisfaction. Good, right. We should find out where you got this. Maybe we can afford it for special occasions. She didn't know what she was suggesting, didn't understand what she'd just helped me become. But I did. I knew that I couldn't report what I'd seen without admitting I'd stolen human meat, without explaining how it ended up cooked in my kitchen, without destroying my wife's innocence. The celebrity had been right about curiosity, about the first step, about how knowledge changes you from the inside. I finished my plate in silence while Lisa talked about her day, about doctor appointments and bills and ordinary things that felt distant now, foreign, like conversations happening in another language to someone I used to be. That night, I lay in bed listening to Lisa sleep, thinking about the taste still lingering in my mouth, about the strength I felt flowing through my body, about the phone number I'd memorized from that business card the celebrity had slipped into my jacket, the number I could call when I was ready for the second step, When I was ready to stop pretending I was still the same person who'd signed that contract for $1,200, I was already hungry again. They say money makes people do terrible things, but it's not the money. It's the desperation, the medical bills, the broken van, the rent due in 5 days. When you're drowning, you grab any rope thrown your way, even if it's made of human hair. I called that number 3 days later, told them I was ready for more work. They didn't sound surprised, just gave me an address and a time. The dispatcher's voice was too calm when she said the pay would be even better this time. Some hungers never get satisfied once you feed them.